Shalom, I'm Ezra from Jewish Voice, and we're coming to you with yet another Israel update. Today, March 12th, marks 5 months and 5 days, believe it or not, since the October 7th attacks and the murder of well over 1,200 innocent civilians in the land of Israel. And what's happening right now, a couple important things. Not only are we about 6 weeks out from the holiday of Passover, so we're heading toward the spring holidays in Israel and in the Jewish world around the world, so it's a time of kind of heightened spiritual awareness. Something else is happening that's directly impacting the headlines you're seeing coming from the Middle East, and it's that we're 3 days into the month-long celebration of Ramadan. This is this intensive period of fasting and feasting where observant Muslims all around the world, including in the Gaza Strip, including in Lebanon, including in Syria, Jordan, and including Arab Israelis living in Israel, actually abstain from water or food from sun up to sundown, and that time is devoted to intensive prayer. And while this is a season of religious devotion, unfortunately, the same key figures who have been inciting violence and encouraging the entire Arab and Muslim world to take up arms against Israel and the Jewish people are using this intensive season of Ramadan to call for increased violence and attack on Israelis living in the land of Israel, on the IDF soldiers trying to defend the land of Israel, and on Jewish populations wherever they are in the world. So I want to ask you to pray, to continue praying, and thank you. You've been so faithful in doing that. Pray with us for a couple specific things. One, continued protection for the Israel Defense Forces as they're carrying out their operations in Gaza, and for the IDF soldiers who are now needing to respond to what today alone, folks, was over 100 rockets coming from Hezbollah, from the terrorist regime on the border between Lebanon and Israel. So protection for IDF forces wherever they're defending the borders of Israel, protection for Israelis in general during this season of Ramadan, that these calls for attack and violence would come to nothing, and that the organizers of these violent attacks, those who are plotting destruction, terrorism, explosions, whatever it is right now, that they would be divided among themselves and that those plans would come to nothing. And finally, would you continue to pray as we head into this Passover season on the Jewish calendar, and as we're in the midst of Ramadan, this religious devotion season on the Muslim calendar, that Jews and Arabs alike would have transformative encounters with the Lord, that what the enemy means for evil right now, the Lord would continue to turn around unto salvation, unto dreams and visions of Yeshua, Jesus, for Jewish people and for Muslims. And that in a Damascus Road kind of way, even those who are most committed to violence against the Jewish people would become sold-out followers of Jesus because he breaks into the circumstances of their lives. We're hearing incredible stories of salvation breaking forth in the Gaza Strip. May that continue. Pray with us. And we're hearing, I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again, from our partners on the ground in Israel, that they haven't seen in 40 years of prayer and intercession for the salvation of Jewish people in Israel, the spiritual openness and the spiritual response that they've seen in the last 4 or 5 months. So may that continue. It's difficult times, and it's going to get more difficult. I'm sorry to say, it's very likely, folks, that it's going to get more difficult and darker before it gets better and brighter. But in the midst of that darkness, in the midst of the enemy coming in like a flood, we're seeing the Lord open up opportunities for men and women and children to have a transformative encounter with him, and that's what we're asking the Lord for. Lord, defend the borders of the land you've restored to the Jewish people, defend the defenders of that land, and bring many people this Passover season and this Ramadan into your kingdom from the Jewish, Arab, and Muslim world. Thank you for continuing to pray with us. We'll keep you updated on what we're hearing from our partners on the ground in the Middle East as we get those updates. Thanks for continuing to stand with Israel.